Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Service to Self, and we are talking about today what women veterans should know when they are transitioning from the military into their civilian careers. Let's dive into this. The very first challenge that women could possibly face when entering the civilian sector after the military is the fact that depending on what your job is, your rate, the market that you're entering, you could be faced with less pay. So let's talk about why that could be. Depending on your job, depending on where you land, where you're going as far as the geographic area, if it's a hub for your career field. So let's say, for example, IT in the DMV area at the time when I was getting out of the military in 2009, IT was very big. IT is information technology. It was very big. It was a place for ITs, like the demand was high for ITs in that area. So for me, in that career field, in that rate, getting a job was not the hard part, but negotiating a competitive salary was. Now, keep in mind also, credentials matter. So if you are going to contract to the government, or if you are going to become a government employee, then there are some things that you have to consider and what you need as far as credentialing. So credentialing, let's talk about what that could be. That could be your degree, undergrad, your graduate degree, credentials meaning certifications that are in the particular career field that you're in, i.e. if you're in IT and you have credentials as a network administrator, or you have a security networking certification, or you have a project management certification. Those credentials you take and you study for, and you go to the schools and you get certified, and you are given credentials that say, hey, this person knows this particular job, they know how to do this particular set of processes or procedures, they are certified to be this, right? So those are credentials that support you getting more pay. And if you have those things, that makes you more marketable and you can demand more pay. So if you don't have that, then you could be facing going into the market and accepting a salary that may not be what you were expecting. So that is a big thing that women face. And then too, sometimes I think I've heard and researched that women oftentimes feel like they are not qualified to apply for these jobs, even if they don't have the credentialing. And let me just put a note here and say, please do not do that to yourself. Go after whatever it is you think that you can do, even if you do not have the credentials that says, hey, this person is certified to do this or be this. So don't sell yourself short. If you feel like you have the skill set or the ability to adopt the skill set, go after it regardless, right? Don't tell yourself no before somebody else has the opportunity to. Take the chance. I'll say that first. The other thing that is another challenge that women could possibly face when entering the civilian sector is translating their skills, right? So when you come out of the military, once again, depending on your job, your rate, what you have done in the military, translating those skills in the civilian sector can seem hard to do. So you have to find ways to be very creative in telling your military story where it equates to experience that is relatable in the civilian sector. That means, let's just say, for example, when you were in the military, you were a supervisor of a team, even if it was a small team, or you not even was a supervisor. Let's just say you led a team unofficially. You were the one that was given the direction, calling the shots, keeping things afloat, and you were the person, right? That means that translates to leadership and supervision skills and leadership skills in the civilian sector. That you could use that experience to say, hey, I have led a project, or I have led a team, I have managed a budget, I have developed a solution that led to this particular outcome or this particular impact for whatever the case may be. It can be difficult to translate those skills, but you have to, it doesn't have to be if you look at it in the sense that, hey, I've led people when I was in the military, I've given direction, I've managed projects, I've done this particular set of processes or procedures. then honestly, that means that you can do that in the civilian sector. That means you can identify processes and procedures. You can create a SOP, which is a standard operating procedure, because you've done that in the military. You've seen what that looks like. You've managed a team that has been able to produce that or develop that. So don't stifle yourself because you cannot, the words still match or the lingo isn't the same. Those skills can translate. The other thing is sometimes women can face like longer job search time frames, and that is just sometimes, once again, dependent upon where you're landing, your job field, and just who you know. That is a big thing. So I will say this, it is very, very key to network before you exit the military, and then even when you get out of the military. So let me just tell you what that can look like, right? Getting out of the military, you might not know this, but you work alongside civilian contractors, or let's just say government contractors, or contractors to government contracts, if that makes sense. Contractors supporting the government, let's just say that. You work a lot alongside these people. You work alongside civilian employees, even private sector employees. You've encountered them, different vendors that you may have worked with in your line of work in the military. You're sitting with these people, you're working alongside them, you're getting demos from them, you're encountering them in some way, form, or fashion throughout your military career. So prior to exiting the service, it behooves you, and it is so imperative that you sit down and have conversations with these people. Find out how they entered the market that they're in. Find out what credentials they have. Find out what their recommendations are for you transitioning the military out. Find out if there are any openings in their company or in their job or their area of expertise. Find out who they know and if they could be a connect or a plug for you, especially if you already have a relationship with this person because you're working in close proximity or side by side on different projects and things like that. A lot of times getting jobs when you enter the civilian sector is about who you know and not necessarily about what you know. So that is key in solidifying your next job opportunity, your next career, your next possible career, move. So you have to take advantage of picking people's brains and finding out the answers to the things that, you don't know what you don't know, but there are so many answers that you can gain just by having conversations with these people and asking questions. Hey, when did you get this cert? Or what is this cert about? Or what is the system you're working on? Like, is that, what does it do? Learn more about it because, hey, I'm interested. I may want to get some credentials that say that I can learn this and I can do this because I wouldn't mind getting a job doing this when I get out the military. It is just imperative to build these relationships and ask these questions because, like I said, sometimes the job is all in who you know, and you can have the job lined up before you even exit the military. You exit and then you walk right into the new job. Another area that women could face challenges in when they are exiting the military and entering the civilian sector is discrimination and harassment. So let's talk about kind of what that looks like. A lot of times, starting with discrimination, people have their stereotypes and they have their ideas of women in the military. Some good, some bad, some just uneducated and they don't have a clue, and so they just made up this whole thing in their heads, right? But people have their biases, and so sometimes women entering the workspace or entering the workspace, it can be seen as, sometimes challenging, sometimes, especially if you have a demeanor. I'm gonna speak like for myself. I'm a very type A type of person, type of woman. I am confident in what I know. I am knowledgeable in my subject area of expertise. I know what I know, and when I know, I speak passionately on it. I work in a certain manner. My work ethic is very strong. Like, I have all these great qualities, right? And so I feel like a lot of times going into the workforce, that was seen as a very good thing. Now you have people who don't operate in that same mindset, who don't operate at the same level, who don't necessarily, have the same passion and conviction with how they work. So sometimes if you're coming into a space as a woman, especially newly assigned, fresh out of the military, and you already have your demeanor, the way you work, your this mindset of structure and just get it done type of attitude. Some people in the civilian workspace or space are just not receptive to that. They see that sometimes as, I don't know, dominating, doing too much, think you know it all, think you're in charge of somebody. You know, it's like, who do you think you are? Well, I think I'm me doing this job that I was hired to do and get paid to do it. So like, why you got a problem with that? But it just happens that way sometimes. So just keep that in mind. Women can face those type of just attitudes and stereotypes and just, I don't know, discrimination. It's like people are just hating because you are you, and because you come in and you are qualified and you are ready to do the job, you are motivated, you are focused on getting the job done, and you just work at a different standard. And sometimes, like I said, it's just not acceptable for people who are not operating at that same level. And then talk about harassment. Sometimes when that is the case, like all that I just said, women tend to kind of get harassed, meaning even this is a form of harassment. It's like where you're in the workspace and it's like, oh, there go Miss thinks she know it all. Oh, there go Miss, Mr. Rod's favorite girl. I don't know, like just random stuff like that. That is a form of harassment. And people doing things to keep you out of the loop, maybe trying to throw you under the bus by not feeding you the same information that they're feeding somebody else. Maybe people just being spiteful and trying to put up roadblocks when you are the person that's being tasked or the person that is leading a particular effort. Like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes and people don't see it as harassment, but in all actuality, it is. And women face that in the workplace because one, they're new. They may not want to say anything or rock the boat because, hey, this is a new job. I want to just do my best. I want to fit in. I want to work well with the crew and with the team. And so they just tend to settle for any type of treatment sometimes. But you have to know your value and your worth, and you don't have to stand for that because you were hired to do this job clearly because your resume, your credentials, and your knowledge and background and history and experience and expertise say that you can do it. So you don't have to tolerate or settle for somebody treating you in a certain way just because you are a woman and they feel that they can handle you a certain kind of way. No, you don't have to settle for that. So those are the type of things that women in the workplace experience, especially coming out of the military into the civilian sector, because for those people, for those women, it's new to them and they don't know what they don't know once again. So they are willing sometimes to accept certain things, and you don't have to. So that leads me to the last point, which is sometimes women tend to undersell themselves. And my thing is if you are hired for a job, don't minimize yourself in any way, form, or fashion once you actually get in the role because you feel, oh, I'm new, I don't want to rock the boat once again. I just kind of want to, do my job and just kind of ride it out, sit under the radar until whatever. Like, no, don't undersell yourself. You were hired for a reason. Your credentials, and like I said, your experience and your time in the military and all of those things matter and mean something to the person who hired you. So do not devalue yourself or undersell yourself in any way, form, or fashion, or in any capacity, whether it is on a project with a certain person, whether it is at the round table when you guys are having a discussion, whether it is you leading an effort and you feeling like, you know what, maybe I need to throttle it back. No, if you are hired as a PMP over a program, then you are that chick, like for a reason. You have to stand up and be able to deliver and to be able to produce and to manage teams that have a part in your program or your project's success. So that's just an example of how and why you need to show up as your best self, your most authentic self, and not undersell or sell yourself short. Walk in authority and claim the success and the victory and all that you, one, have already experienced and done and achieved in the military, and then two, walking into this door knowing that you're gonna be that same chick doing this in the new job. So we talked about a whole bunch of things a whole bunch of challenges that women could face when transitioning, right, from the military into the civilian sector. Now let's talk about some other things that women may not even think about when they're getting ready to transition, i.e., how is healthcare going to be when you get out of the military and transition into the civilian sector? How is childcare going to be once you transition if you have kids? How do all of these things now differ, right? What does it look like? How do I get the support I need in those areas? All of those things you can face challenges because now you are a civilian. And so civilian, contractor, government employee, however, whatever category you fall into, oftentimes you're not going to get the hand holding and caring like you were getting in the military. You're not going to have the CDC center right next door where you can just walk out every 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to go and check on baby girl or baby boy. That's not going to be the case. You're going to have to consider and worry about now childcare, daycare, schools that's all the way over here. You work 30 minutes, an hour away from the job, just depending on where you are. Once again, the conveniences that you had when you were in the military, they will surely not look the same. So I say this to say, prepare yourself, plan for that, because that's the one thing you don't want to get in the way of you being able to be successful in your civilian career, is not having the proper plan or things in place to make life a little bit more streamlined for yourself when it comes to home, i.e. childcare, where you live at, how you got to get to the kids, blah, blah, blah. All of those things are very important and they look so different when you are out of the military. So keep those things in mind and plan for those things early. You don't want to necessarily be an hour away from the kids' school and then also an hour away from the job, because now quality of life decreases because I got to be on the road pretty much 2 hours in this direction or that direction to go pick up the kids or drop the kids to school, and then to get to work. And then after work, if I'm getting off at 5 o'clock, it's late, I gotta drive all. Like, you don't want that. So plan accordingly. Know where the job is gonna be. Know how you plan to achieve everyday life goals, i.e. picking up the kids by a certain time, being able to get them to wherever they need to go when the after school activities begin. The logistics of things matter when you get out of the military, because you no longer have the ease of, like I said, the conveniences that the military gave. Having the things on base right at your fingertips, the commissary, or like I said, the CDC and all of these things. Life just looks different after the military. And along those lines, there's so many other things that you will then have to worry about, or that you have to also worry about when you transition. So it's not just about the things that you face or the challenges you face when it comes to the on the job once you transition and getting the job and things like that. Not only that, not only the logistics of after you transition, what different things look like because you don't have the conveniences of the military anymore. You also then have to worry about your mental health care. You have to worry about your overall adjustments to civilian life. You have to worry about your building a new community and identifying or re-identifying with yourself. Like, all of those things could pose so many different challenges, and they all are so important and they all matter so much. So it is very, very important for you to find a balance, find community early if you can, understand the logistics of what your life is going to look like when you do transition. Hopefully you find the job early on and you can plan and know ahead of time what things are going to look like, where you're going to be living and all that stuff. But sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But it is so important to try to plan and try to understand what the possibilities of life will look like outside of the military. Once again, there are so many different programs that help you prepare for transitioning from the military. TAPS, there's resources outside of the military, the VA. All of these resources are important to tap into as you're transitioning, and even when you do transition completely. But once again, ask questions. Get under the wing of people who have done it, or who are doing it, or who just know because they have experienced it in their life with people that they may have encountered, or maybe in their family and things like that. Like, find a community, find a support group, ask the questions, get all of the things that you need to get in order to understand what life is going to look like after the military, especially for working moms and just women who, you need to understand the challenges you could possibly face. And it is so much better and so much easier if you can plan for what that would look like and how you can support yourself through those challenges and changes and all of that. So I say all that to say, the possibility of challenges is great, but you can absolutely get through it by finding community, asking questions, doing some of that legwork before you even transition. And if you have transitioned, drop some comments and let people know, what they can expect, what you may have experienced. Drop a little tidbit to say, hey, here's some encouragement. However, whatever, these stories matter and they help people, and they just gems for people who may find this video and say, you know what, I'm getting ready to transition, or I have a cousin that's transitioning, or I have transitioned and this could help somebody. However, whatever, like, this is just so important, and I want women to be empowered, and I want them to hold space for each other, and I want them to be prepared to make the transition. And once again, it doesn't even matter if you're transitioning from the military. You could be transitioning from another career, from anything. You could be in any phase of your life, but transition happens, and women face a lot of challenges when that is the case. So I just would like to encourage you to try to plan, try to prepare, try to just do all that you can to learn all that you can to make the transition easier for yourself. That is the overall goal. So I hope this helped. I hope this kind of, sparked some questions, some thoughts, some insight. Don't forget to drop comments. If you have not watched or caught up on the From Service to Self podcast and episodes, go catch up. And until next time, thank you. Bye.